Doveland, Wisconsin does not exist. This isn't up for debate. The question is, did it exist? Rumors about this rural town that mysteriously vanished sometime in the 1980s or 1990s allegedly started with a blog post on Tumblr sometime in 2015. There's some debate on whether it ever existed in the first place. And if it did, what happened to it? The supposed Tumblr users' posts, if they existed, are apparently lost to time. The earliest I could verify was an iceberg meme from the archive of me.me from 2017. This image was later reposted to 4chan's Xboard, where users post about topics ranging from the paranormal to conspiracy theories. It's here that we start seeing the debate of Doveland's ambiguous existence. There are also claims on Reddit's conspiracy subreddit about Doveland, with some users dismissing it and others stating that it was not only real, but involved in a military project. We'll get back to this claim later. With that said, anonymous forum posts don't constitute hard evidence, so is there anything besides alleged eyewitnesses? There is one photo from a 4chan board post that could be inferred to be a restaurant in Doveland, but there's nothing in the photo to indicate where it was taken. And seeing as this is a digital image of a physical photograph, there's no metadata to verify the location. There are also references to a couple of articles from the Post-Crescent out of Appleton, Wisconsin, which report on missing people in the state. But Doveland actually isn't mentioned anywhere in these articles. One is about missing children from the state of Wisconsin, and the other is more of an educational piece about different categories of missing people, the effects on their families, and the state's Silver Alert system. It's similar to the Amber Alert system, except for at-risk senior citizens. There is merchandise for sale that bears the town's name, but this all seems to be from print-on-demand stores or small businesses run by hobbyists. Despite claims that official Doveland merchandise exists, nobody has produced any from the time period when the town was supposedly on the map. Alright, so just because everything we've seen so far is either a red herring or anecdotal, it doesn't mean that the people who claim to remember Doveland are lying. So can we find any historical evidence? I searched the US Census and found nothing, except that the census website thought I was trying to search for Dateland, Arizona. Then I searched for Wisconsin-based publications that contained the word Doveland, and I found two interesting matches. On April 1st, 1979, a real estate company called the Doveland Agency posted a classified ad in the Wisconsin State Journal trying to sell some rural property. Now, there is no agency with this name in Wisconsin as of the publishing of this video, but the ad contained two phone numbers. One of them is currently associated with a private residence, and the other is connected to a Century 21 real estate office. Both are in Evansville, Wisconsin. And while this should go without saying, please don't try to contact either of them. The Century 21 office already ignored my email asking about the Doveland Agency, and honestly, I don't blame them. They're busy selling houses, and I wasn't about to bother a random private citizen about my silly video. Everyone involved here has their own lives and they don't need to be disturbed. There's a reason I censored the phone numbers. In any case, it's not the right town. Evansville was first settled in the 1830s, so it's not like Doveland existed there and was later renamed. The second result that caught my eye was a TV listing in the July 26, 1986 issue of the Chippewa Herald-Telegram for Lakeland Rock, Doveland Groove. At first glance, I thought this might be some kind of local music show. Wisconsin is in the Great Lakes region of the United States, and the name Doveland Groove sounds like it might be the name of a festival or band. After a lot of searching and dead ends, I happened upon a YouTube video. It turns out that Lakeland Rock was a UK TV series about rock climbing that was rebroadcast on a local network, and the listing was a typo of the episode Dovedale Groove. This is a reference to a particular path that the climbers took up a groove on Dove Crag in the English Lake District. The trail pretty much went cold from there. So, let's talk about theories. The first theory is paranormal in nature, similar to the Mandela effect. Either Doveland existed and shifted into a parallel reality, or the people who remember the town are from a parallel reality where it existed and shifted into this one. Being supernatural in nature, this claim isn't really falsifiable, so we won't go over it here. The next theory is more mundane. Doveland existed for a while, but was eventually dissolved. It's not unheard of for this sort of thing to happen. A city might get abandoned due to natural disaster or bad economic conditions. Sometimes a government might deem it necessary to redraw borders or move people elsewhere for an infrastructure project. But if this was the case for Doveland, there would be records, and there just aren't any. This leads us straight into the next theory. Was Doveland part of a government cover-up? Previously I mentioned there was a theory that Doveland was somehow involved in a government operation. Either the project was top secret or caused some kind of disaster. so all references to it were wiped from the internet sometime in 2015. Allegedly, this was Project Sanguine. Project Sanguine was first proposed to the public by the US Navy in 1968. The idea was to build an antenna that could use extremely low frequency waves to communicate with submarines anywhere in the world. This project would have had 6,000 miles of cable buried in a grid pattern spanning an area of about 22,500 miles, or roughly 40% of the land area of Wisconsin. I want to emphasize that this was a real government proposal. The plan was extremely unpopular with Congress and the people of Wisconsin for what I hope are pretty obvious reasons. Whether it was the environmental damage constructing such a project would cause, the disruption to everyday life, or just the sheer cost of burying a giant antenna under, I repeat, 40% of a state, pretty much everybody hated this plan. There was even a committee formed in Wisconsin that sued the then Secretary of Defense to stop it from happening. Project Sanguine was so unpopular that it was eventually canceled and replaced with a much smaller scale Project ELF that had 2 antennae, one near Clam Lake in Wisconsin, and the other east of Republic in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. It operated from 1989 until 2004. With Project Sanguine being canceled and the locations of Project ELF's antennae known to the public, it can be safely assumed that the city of Doveland and Project Sanguine had nothing to do with each other. There's just no evidence other than a couple of online forum posts. That brings us to the final theory. It was all just made up. Every piece of evidence we have is anecdotal and from dubious sources. Dublin might have been made up as a joke or part of an alternate reality game that never took off. It may even be a case of false memories, or a mix of all of these. We'll likely never know. I can only speculate, but I think most of the comments I've seen attempting to confirm Dovland's existence are either trolls misleading the curious or egging on the conspiracy-minded for fun. But at this point, I can confidently say that Doveland, Wisconsin does not exist and never did.
Hey fellow youths, thanks for watching me, the Fact Bat, on YouTube. Make sure to click or tap on all the buttons that YouTube wants you to click, and tune in next time for more internet rumors, folklore, and urban legends. And I hope your day is just swell.